Britain has voted to leave the European Union by 51.9%. We look at both sides of the campaign at a local level, as well as asking the important question, what is the EU? The Bexley Civic parade took place on the 26th of June in the town centre, with members of the council, parliament and military in attendance to welcome Bexley Borough's new mayor. The annual Pride event has paraded through London, with speeches and performances taking place at Trafalgar Square. Our correspondent got an exclusive interview with the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, to ask why he thinks this event is so important with young people. Hello and welcome to BBC News School Report. I'm James. On Thursday the 23rd of June, Britain took to the polls to vote on this historic referendum, whether Britain should leave or remain part of the EU. 51.9% voted to leave, beating 48.1% who voted to remain. We'll take a look at each side's campaigns a little bit later on, but for now let's find out exactly what the EU is.
In or out? Well, Britain has certainly shaken it all about and did the hokey-cokey with the nation divided and politicians turning against each other within their own political parties. So what exactly is Europe? Well, to fully understand, we're going to have to travel back in time. The Europe we know today started to emerge in 1945, when fighting turned to friendship at the end of World War II. The European Economic Community was created in 1957, due to the Treaty of Rome. It soon became known as the Common Market and came into effect from the 1st of January 1958. It was signed by Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands and West Germany. In 1973, the UK, Ireland and Denmark jumped onto the EU bandwagon, with Spain, Portugal and Greece joining in the 1980s. In 1986, the single market was created, solving trade problems, and the Berlin Wall was defeated in 1989, reuniting Germany. Europe continued its expansion in 1995 with Austria, Finland and Sweden joining. However, the largest expansion occurred in 2004 when 7 more countries joined, followed by 3 more since 2007. But how is Europe run? Well, each country has a commissioner who sits unsurprisingly on the European Commission. They decide where the money goes and what laws to create. Separately, there are 751 MEPs who sit on the European Parliament. They vote on which laws to pass after being proposed by the Commission. The Council of the European Union is where representatives from all the countries' governments meet and discuss their views to get what they want out of Europe. Finally, the Court of European Justice is where to keep everything in order between the Commission, Parliament and Council. Well, that's Europe's history, but what's headed in the future? And will Britain still have anything to do with it? Matthew, BBC News.
Both sides have been battling it out for weeks now in a series of attempts to gain votes for either leave or remain. In fact, almost every day now on TV we've seen reports about how Boris Johnson and David Cameron's UK tours are going, as well as endless quotes and speeches. But what does this mean on a local level? We've been taking a look at some of the volunteers who are giving up their free time to get their message across to the public.
Vote Remain to be sane. Vote Remain to be sane. Vote...
Protecting workers' rights and the UK earning a lot more in the EU are opinions held by these Remain campaigners in Holborn.
Britain's stronger in Europe. EU Referendum. Britain's stronger in.
They were busy handing out leaflets and offering stickers, but why are they so passionate about remaining in the EU?
I just think it's done so many great things for people in Britain with disability rights, and I personally think that freedom of movement is actually a really positive thing, both for people in Britain and people coming in, and workers' rights, things about minimum wage. I just think as a human it's better to be in the EU personally.
For me, it's about the kind of person you are. It's about
openness, Britain's place in the world. Do we want to influence a lot of what's going on around the world? Do we want to help solve a lot of international problems, global trade, problems with the environment? They all need international responses, and for me, that's why. Well, I think there's no doubt it's going to be safer and for the economy. We're going to have many more jobs in the future. I think the economy is going to grow faster. We can deepen the single market, and being in the single market is the most important thing for the economy. I also think it's about the country's values, working with other countries, helping secure Europe. I think the values of the European Union mesh very well with us, and I think the politics might take a bit of a nasty turn if we were to leave. I think we'll have years of negotiation, we're blaming the EU for the fact that things are going wrong during that time, and lots of nationalism might go and lead perhaps to the breakup of the UK. So I think those two aspects, economy and our values.
The In campaign wants to protect workers' rights so that maximum working hours, equal treatment, health and safety standards and pay leave are stuck to. They say that being in the EU is great for family, holidaymakers, workers, small businesses, pensioners and young people. But on the other side of London, in Croydon, campaigners were busy trying to gather support for leaving the EU, handing out leaflets, badges, pens and posters. These guys felt strongly in favour of Britain turning its back on Europe.
It's purely about space. It's about having NHS places, having schools places, and having the housing. And for young people in particular, the housing one, I mean, it's next to impossible for a young person to get on the housing ladder these days. Now, that can only get worse the more people who come into the country. When we're building a fraction of the houses we need already.
We should govern our own affairs again. Elect the people who govern us and have the ability to throw them out as well if we disagree.
I think to take back control of our own democracy and also, frankly, to control numbers of immigrations. We do need immigration, but we need to make sure that the people that we accept in our increasingly overpopulated small island are the people with either the skills or with a genuine humanitarian need, not just by virtue of the fact that they happen to have an EU passport.
My number one reason is the out of control immigration problem that we have in this country. We have no restrictions, we've got no limitations. If we do have a limitation, it goes well beyond that. And the fact is, immigration is what's causing the huge impact on problems we have, the lack of resources in the NHS to serve all the people that are coming in, housing as well. There's a lack of housing, not enough resources there as well, and education, there's not enough places for our children.
Prioritising the NHS, controlling immigration and trading with the whole world are beliefs held by Leave campaigners. They think that if we left the EU, we would have more money to build hospitals. But back on the 16th of June, tragedy struck and campaigning was suspended after Labour MP and Remain supporter Jo Cox was attacked and killed in her Bexley and Spen constituency. A memorial was held for her in Trafalgar Square, where hundreds attended to pay tribute.
Today would have been Jo's 42nd birthday. She would have spent it dashing around the streets of her hometown, trying to convince people that Britain is stronger in Europe. She feared the consequences of Europe dividing again, hated the idea of building walls between us, and worried about the dynamics that could unleash. But today, across the world, we're seeing forces of division playing on people's worst fears rather than their best instincts, trying to divide our communities, to exploit insecurities and emphasise not what unites us, but what divides us. Jo's killing was political. It was an act of terror designed to advance an agenda of hatred towards others. What a beautiful irony it is that an act designed to advance hatred has instead generated such an outpouring of love.
I think she demonstrated and she championed the cause of compassion, human rights and democracy. That's very crucial to remember, especially when the world is going through trying times.
For me, it's, as her husband said today, it's a political act. and therefore the importance to kind of live on and continue sort of living in her legacy, not just today but for forever.
I mean, of course, it's deeply shocking, but at the same time, we live in times where, sadly, there is still a lot of hatred. It will never win, but it means that people like Jo who stand up for things that are so important are the target of that sort of hatred, which is horrendously sad, but it means that it's almost slightly inevitable at times.
Dear brothers and sisters, we come here today to celebrate the life of our dear friend Jo Cox. We have heard from so many of Jo's friends and colleagues about the example she set through her leadership, her service to her community, and her devotion to her family. The tragedy of her death does nothing to diminish all that she accomplished in her life.
I'm here today because I was privileged enough to work with Jo. I worked with her when she was head of advocacy and campaigns in Oxfam, and I was the programme director. And we worked on things like the Darfur campaign for people, refugees in Sudan, 500,000 refugees, and very difficult situations where I've been working on issues around Sudan for years, and Jo just brought an extraordinary energy into the room, and an optimism and an intellect that was added such value, both in terms of the team but also in terms of the outcomes of our work as well.
George, BBC News.
On a sunny Sunday morning in Bexleyheath, the Civic parade took place in the town centre, with members of the council, parliament and military in attendance to welcome Bexley Borough's new mayor. Our reporter was there to find out more.
It's the beginning of a new mayoral year in the London borough of Bexley. And what better way to begin than by having a parade through the centre of the town? After a church service, the military cadets gathered outside along with MPs and councillors are to parade up the Broadway. By the clock tower, a few short speeches were made, followed by some historical entertainment.
We'll meet again, don't know where, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Today's about the Civic Parade. It's welcoming the new mayor, really, but it's celebrating all that's good in Bexley as well. And that's why I feel very privileged that we've had so many of our young people turn out today, because quite often all you hear is about when they do things wrong, but you don't hear about the 99% who are very hard-working and committed and a real credit to their community.
And what is the atmosphere like here today?
It's lovely, it's really warm, it's really welcoming, and everyone just wants you to get through the church service, and because I had to speak, but I just felt this really, it was a strong swelling of people willing me to do well. That's what it felt like.
As part of the military weekend, stalls were lined up along the Broadway with different organisations interacting with the public.
With Royal British Legion, we're collecting funds for the Poppy Appeal, so we can help our British Armed Forces people and their families if they're in need.
Okay, what I'm doing today is I'm showing people the sort of toys that people had in the past. Nowadays most toys have batteries or they need internet, and so a lot of these toys are handmade. These ones, for instance, go back to Viking times. It's something you can do that's safe on a ship, no sparks and the ball's not going to roll off the edge. And the jacks, which people often play with nowadays, look like this. Used to be sheep's knuckle bones if you were a Roman. So some of these toys go back way back. In the wartime, people didn't have much money, so this ancient looking sock and the raid of the button box suddenly becomes, I don't know, a vicious dog, whatever. So people really enjoy having a go at things. It's an interactive display. I'm not selling anything, but it's fun just to try out the toys of the past.
Basically, my purpose here today is all about the community engagement. The communities of Bexleyheath, obviously, and I'm here today to enlighten people around crime prevention, how they can protect themselves and their homes at very low costs. It doesn't cost a lot to look after ourselves, and just broaden our horizons, basically.
Just a couple of weeks previously, Sidcup's Great War Pageant took place just down the road. It was made possible by the Lammerby and Sidcup Local History Society, who collected an enormous amount of support from the different organisations, including the Scouts, Guides, Bexley Civic Society and St John's Ambulance, to name but a few. They had performances by Bird College, Rose Bruford College, the NC3 Choir and many more throughout the day. Overall, these events have been tremendously fun and enjoyable with the local communities, celebrating not only their past, but also what's to come in the future of the towns. Harry, BBC News, Bexley.
Finally, the annual Pride event has paraded through London, with many speeches and performances taking place at Trafalgar Square. Our reporter Jamie was there to find out more.
Today, London's LGBT community is making a clamour throughout the capital, with the annual Pride event parading from Portland Place to Whitehall. So, what is Pride? Well, it's the UK's biggest LGBT event and the second biggest day out in London. On their website, they say their mission is to be fully inclusive of all sections of the LGBT+ community, free at the point of access, provide a celebration of LGBT+ life and a platform to continue the fight for equality and to challenge prejudice. They want to establish Pride in London on a sustainable footing and grow the festival over time to serve better the needs of London's LGBT+ community and promote London as a beacon to the world.
Well, I think the best part of Pride is actually everyone coming together regardless their sexual orientation, gender identity, race, and celebrating diversity in a really, really welcoming way.
Could I maybe ask you why you're here today at this event at Pride?
I'm here to celebrate half of the black people and the Caribbean as well, mostly.
And what do you think is the best part of Pride?
The best part of Pride is that we all come together from different parts of the world and we all march as one and be proud as what we are.
What's the best part about being at Pride, do you think?
Oh, just like getting to see all the eccentric and how everyone's so proud to be themselves. I've never seen so much colour in my life, yeah. Just the individuality of everyone, yeah.
And do you think that homophobia sort of still exists in today's society?
I definitely think it does, but what I really like about this place now is how much diverse communities are here today as well. So people from religious backgrounds, and that's really good to see.
And how does this compare to how it is in America?
Great question.
I was born here in England.
Yeah.
I lived in America for 30 years in a town called San Diego. We had a great Pride parade, but San Diego's small compared to London, so it's nothing like this. This is fantastic.
London is an incredible place to be celebrating Pride, and I think especially in the recent events in the U.S., as JLD had mentioned too, in terms of Orlando, I think for us it's to show unity and support, I think globally as an LGBT community, to really come out and just celebrate love.
Each year there is a theme to the festivities, and this year it's #NoFilter. This is to encourage people not to be afraid of who they are, and that they should be able to express themselves freely without self-censoring.
Will I be lesbian? Will I be straight? Here's what she said to me. Yes, hurrah, whatever will be. It's your sexuality. Yes, hurrah.
Why are you at Pride today?
Well, it's my first time at Pride, and as a straight person I thought it was really important as a Christian to come out and to stand with my brothers and sisters in faith and to say that God loves everybody regardless of their sexuality.
And what do you think is the best part about Pride?
Well, I would have said at first being with friends, but these crowds are amazing. The love that we're feeling from people around here is just lovely, and everyone's so happy to be here and so inclusive. Honestly, I think it might be the happiest place on earth and not Disneyland.
I tried to count how many organisations are in the parade, but couldn't because there are so many of them.
Right at the front are the Pride in London flag bearers and the board of directors. Plus, the rest of the parade is so huge it's split into 7 different sections.
Here in the West End there are 4 different stages set up. The main one here in Trafalgar Square, as well as a women's stage, the cabaret stage and a family stage over in Golden Square.
We must never be complacent, because I want to see this. In this great city, last year, homophobic and transphobic crime went up. That is not good enough. My promise is to have a zero tolerance towards this. We'll work with the police and we'll stop here.
Why do you think it's so important for young people to come to events like Pride?
Oh, it's so important. Look, we've got to recognise that people are who they are. And, you know, the great thing about London is we don't simply tolerate difference, we respect it, we celebrate it, we embrace it. And, you know, I'm afraid when I was growing up, if you look different, someone like me, you got picked on, you got called names, you were discriminated against. If you speak to LGBT plus young people, they still find it very difficult to be who they are. And my message to people here today is, look, be proud of who you are. I don't be mayor for all Londoners. We've got to recognise that we are seen around the world as a beacon, and that means making sure Londoners and those around the country and young people can be confident in who they are.
Last year, nearly 1 million people attended the event, which cost £600,000 to run. This year, 300 acts are performing on the different stages, and there are over 4,000 volunteers making it possible.
My name's Trudy Howson, and I am the inaugural LGBT Poet Laureate, and I'm going to read the poem that I wrote for Pride in London this year. Let's celebrate this day, be proud of who we are, dazzling in diversity, here from near and far. Just look around and see, it's love that sets you free. We're every colour, creed and style, we're LGBT. Our hearts are open wide. There is no need to hide, embraced by our community, being who we want to be. So here at London Pride, with friends at every side, let's dance and sing and shout. We're queer, we're proud, we're out.
The main message today is one of solidarity, a community standing strongly together in a city and a country that is successfully eradicating homophobia.
Jamie, BBC News, Central London.
After a year of broadcasting and journalism, from all our passionate and dedicated correspondents, that's it for the year. From here at Hurstmere in London, goodbye.